Welcome everybody to Perspectives for Parents, Pandemic and Faith. And I'm Leslie Hanscom, the Director of Children's Ministries at Lake Grove. And with me is Reverend Lillian Flack. And we have a special guest with us today, Lauren Carroll, who is actually in New York City today. And I'm so delighted to welcome Lauren. She and I go back 11 years, where we were colleagues together at Gymboree Play and Music. Lauren left Gymboree actually to pursue a master's in school counseling at Oregon State and is a licensed school counselor, served in that position here in Oregon for 4 years before she moved in June of this year to New York City, where her husband is in residency at a hospital in New York. And so because of Lauren's expertise in helping kids manage trauma, helping kids build resiliency, I wanted to have her perspective today. Right now, she's still doing continuing education, specializing in grief and trauma. And we thought we'd have her start a few minutes today with just how has it been living in New York City, which has really been the epicenter for this pandemic as it swept across the United States.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for having me. And thank you for having this platform. This is amazing for people to have. So I moved to New York City about 11 months ago. And anybody knowing New York City, you experience this hustle and this bustle. It's vibrant and it's a very social city. And then when this crisis happened, it immediately went into this desolation, and I would even call it devastation. So I live on the island of Manhattan, and I live in a 2-block radius from a hospital. And around me in my neighborhood, I am witnessing what's happening around me. I'm witnessing people going to and from the hospital. I'm witnessing, the overflow of patients. I'm witnessing, things happening on the news, but then I'm realizing, wait, that's here. That's right across the street from me. Mm-hmm. And everything is different. Everything about New York City that I know is different. I have a subway station not 20 steps from my front door. No one. In fact, it's closed off right now. It's scary, and this realization hit me that this isn't just about me. And this isn't just about, me living in this, because people of every religion, race, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status, it's happening to them. People are sick and people are dying. And really, it hit me 2 different times. Now, I have a standard poodle, and in my little apartment that I live, I don't have an outdoor space. So I physically, and I'm going to call it suiting up, I have to physically suit up to take him out to have his self-care breaks, as I call them. And early on, really even before this became even what I could accept, I still was masking up and suiting up because that was my responsibility. And if you know New York City or any big city, there's businesses below and apartment buildings, right? As you look up into the sky. So as I'm taking my dog on a self-care break, I go outside and it hits me. It's completely dark around me. Everything at eye level, completely dark. There is no one at the subway. I might have seen 1 or 2 healthcare worker running towards the hospital. And that's what I see a lot, running towards and hustling, right? Moving away. But there was nobody and there was nothing. And then I look up, and as we know, right, New York City, the place that, no one ever sleeps, I rarely ever saw these apartment buildings lit up. Now, completely lit up. And so where, it was very opposite what I used to know, now it's so different. And I had to wrap my brain around this. It's what what's happening, right?
Mhm.
And then the other time is when this actually recently happened. I'm walking my dog yet again, and I decided to put on my bravery hat and walk a little closer towards the hospital. And I notice hundreds of signs, hundreds of letters written even by little children, Sidewalk Chalk, not only to our healthcare workers, but to essential workers and to each other, right? Offering this sense of encouragement. And I was so taken back because as much devastation that's happening around me, I was like, wow, wow. So, I mean, that's my experience. That's what I'm seeing. And I know that's very general, but that's
Thank
what,
you so much, Lauren.
yeah.
It sounds like there's such a huge discrepancy. Like you're just describing like light versus darkness and how it was so not just palpable, but visible. I mean, the physical, that's what you saw. And it's so opposite. That is, gosh, so sobering and shocking as, and all mixed together.
Yeah, and it almost feels out of control. Like, and this sense of acceptance. Like how can I even begin to accept this? And how can I even start to prepare myself? What do I need to do, right? To keep myself not only physically safe but mentally safe, so I can help others, right? Because I have people in my life, I have others that I need to be serving. And really, I mean, I've labeled it, and we hear the word crisis a lot in this situation, but really, to me, this is grief and loss.
Yeah. And I think being able to label it, I mean, right, that's such an important step, to be able to say, this is what it is, identify it. And as you identify it, can you explain why it's important for us to be able to identify?
Yeah. So when we are able to identify it, and again, this is kind of where I've set, and again, being my background in school counseling, being able to label something can help us gain that sense of control back, and in a way, it's empowering, and that can empower us to, again, help the other people around us, because we're all experiencing this, obviously at different levels. We're all coming from different walks of life and different ages and different factors that we're all experiencing. When we label something, though, that's when we can start accepting and gaining that sense of control back.
Yeah. And you talk about, so I think about capacity, right? We're all created with different capacities to deal with what's going on. And I love how you said, yeah, by identifying and naming, it's empowering. And then we can we're not at a loss, like we're not in a fog anymore. We could kind of help direct our steps.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. As much as we can, right?
Yeah.
In this time.
What would you say if we decided we're going to accept it and we labeled that what we're feeling is grief and loss? What would you say to parents, and then, how to walk through it if we've labeled it? What do we do now?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, and I take all of this, again, from my counseling background, the American School Counseling Association, and also the American Academy of Pediatrics. So first and foremost, it's the oxygen mask, right? We have to take care of ourselves first. Those of us who are watching this, we have to take care of ourselves first. Put on your oxygen mask before you go and help somebody else, right? It's self-care. And some people are like, right, even me, right? I could barely get my self-care in before this. How am I supposed to do it now? I am in survival mode right now, right? I can only get me and my family, right, our basic needs met. That's it. But that is the key. When we start to notice we are in survival mode, that's when we need to increase our self-care. Now, self-care is going to look very different nowadays, right? We have to be creative. We have to modify, right? We're restricted. Some of us are still in, complete isolation, but we have to respect the space that we need. And that's so first and fundamentally. But then like actual tools, right? If, moving forward, I call it ABCD. So affirming fears and addressing those fears, being honest about the information that we're taking in and also giving, connecting, that's the C, and then the D is daily routines. And I'll just unpack those just quickly for everybody. So affirming fears, especially for our children, we need to make sure that we have the opportunity, right? And for ourselves, I would say too, that we can listen, sometimes even listening to ourselves, but listen to our children, validating our feelings, like Leslie had discussed, modeling how to manage our feelings. That might even be like, wow, my heart is beating really fast. My fists are clenched. I'm feeling really hot. I know this is time for me to label my feelings. And for our kids who don't have language skills yet, maybe that's just pulling out a feelings chart, even feeling faces, so that they can identify how they're feeling, and then we can model. And that in itself can help us gain some control back. Also, the B, being honest, we have to make sure that the information that we're giving and receiving is truthful, honest information, even for our littles, right? We need to make sure, and it can be just very simple, but we have to make sure that it's truthful and honest and developmentally appropriate for them. Connecting, that's the C. So for adults, this is always kind of my go-to, is making a list, whether that's mentally or actually writing it out, about who are the people in my life that I can go to, because maybe right now you're feeling like you're putting all of your needs and feelings onto maybe the other adult that's in your house, or maybe someone that you're constantly calling. Maybe make a list, right, of who can I call for parenting advice? Who can I call, because I'm having a spiritual need, somebody in my place of worship. Who can I call, baking advice because I don't have any yeast left? Who can I call and rely upon because these feelings are bigger than me, and I maybe need to reach out to a community mental health professional. Same with our kids though too. Let them connect, right? Let them call their friends, especially, right, our adolescents and our teenagers. They need that space, right? Developmentally, they need that time with those people in their life. Same with school, have them contact their teachers, maybe their school counselor. And also, if you're noticing, maybe they're having some bigger than you can handle behavioral mental things, contacting a community mental health professional. And then lastly, as daily routines, coming up with little times in your day that you can create some type of routine. I'm finding myself doing this, always doing something at relatively the same time, or at least like within that same realm. And also scheduling time to play, and adults too. We all need to play. For our children, especially our littles, play is a form of self-expression, and that in itself can offer that control. And the routine of play can also offer that predictability that we're seeking, that safety that we're seeking. For olders, right, our teenagers and adolescents, that could be drawing, that could be playing a game, right? They're all about competitiveness, right? And then us adults, finding time to play. Play for you might look like, I don't know, exercise or baking that bread, or being creative. Some people love, to be creative, playing music, whatever that might be, right? And I know that's a lot, but ABCD, because when I'm in times of crisis, I need really, right, simple things, and ABCD. Okay, how can I best do all these things so I can serve others?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I so appreciate that simple, the ABCD, because that really, like you were saying, in times of crisis, and we are living in a time of crisis, we have to be able to kind of remember, okay, not what happened in that textbook that I read, but what are the basics and what is so necessary. And, so thank you. Those four are very clear and concise reminders to ourselves.
Can I also mention, I'm so sorry to interrupt, just 3 amazing other resources, because I also respect that some people need to take this information, sit with it, maybe do some of their own research, maybe they find something that really speaks to them. The American Academy of Pediatrics, like I had said, has some amazing specific topics about this time and how to help ourselves and our children. Also, the Child Mind Institute and Trauma Informed Oregon. Those are also some amazing mental health and crisis resources for these specific topics that we're talking about right now.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for recognizing, that most of us actually with this information, this era of information overload, sometimes we just need to know where to look for when we
and who to trust.
And again, I'm just thinking and being so thankful for that ABCD, because what we've been hearing is that so many of us are feeling exhausted, which seems so like counterintuitive because we're home, but we're not stimulated as much as we used to be. And so we're in our homes and it is draining. And so we want to remember this Bible verse from Psalm 61, which says, "From the ends of the earth to you, I call as my heart grows faint." And with faint, just exhausted. And the plea that we have is, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. And that rock is our God, who is the foundation, is the one thing that we can stand on. And so that's just an encouragement that I want to share with all of our listeners, all of our LGK family and parents, that God is still our rock, and especially the rock that we can aim and reach out to in these times of just feeling faint and exhausted. So thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you for the time that we can share together. So value you. And we look forward to the next time that we can talk, and hope to see you again with Perspective and Parents. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.